How free should we be? That was the question that began my existential journey towards this current moment. In my first philosophy class, and the teacher had written on the board, it was an ethics and society class, and the teacher had written on the board, how free should we be? And that was the central question of ethics. But what you start to realize is that it is the central question of reality. How free should we be is a very interesting question. What do we want when we want freedom? Freedom is a buzzword beyond buzzwords. But freedom, you see, always happens within a context of freedom. A context of a certain kind of boundary space in which you understand freedom to perform in certain predictable ways through time. Real freedom is a crazy idea. What would it even mean? Because it means that the boundary conditions of freedom that you understand are actually removed, and there's real freedom at the heart of reality. Real freedom at the heart of understanding. At that point, you have a choice. You can either see freedom as exploding itself out to the void, and that's basically, even though they wouldn't even want to put it in that kind of existentialist terms, that's basically the vision of science as particle physics and the traditional standard model and the way most quote-unquote scientists and evolutionists think of the world. It is being, which they consider to be matter or whatever, it's being blowing up to entropy, where the bubble just bursts and then it's over. Or you could see it as being exploding itself out to love. That the thing that's outside us is so metaphysically conceptual, somehow it's actually objective. But it's not like the material world in the sense where we experience it as just reifying the forms that we encounter as real, but it's actually really, really real because it's so conceptually real it's on the outside of consciousness itself, or the ultimate possible boundary space of consciousness. How free should we be when we have access to that kind of freedom? Because how liberated is consciousness in order able to understand itself how it wishes to, and how the way it wishes to understand itself will actually liberate it towards different states of being, but only if you have the right ideas and the right concepts. There are mechanisms within the system to control the revelations of what reality can be, and those mechanisms are what we call the logos, the word embodied in Christ, who lived the ultimate experience, and therefore kind of grounded all other experiences and invited them to live the ultimate experiences of discovering that on the other side, when the bubble bursts, is a love that takes you to mystery. Boom, reality. I mean, there's no philosophy after that. You see, because what you do is you just see what philosophy was, and the way that philosophy kept digging trenches for itself by constantly articulating the paradoxes as problems to be solved, as opposed to understanding and being how the paradoxes are actually solved in love, which is the willingness to let go of a certain kind of understanding for an experience of acceptance of truth, which is an object. How free should we be? When you realize that freedom is great, that is when you want to obey. Because you see, the system always knows more than you. It always is more perfect and greater than you. It has to be, because it's infinite. Mary is infinite. All the things she could have been is infinite. Really, there's only one mannequin. That's the mystery, but yet it's Mary, when determined. There's indeterminacy at the core of the real, you see. And that indeterminacy is ultimately even a kind of epistemological indeterminacy. It is The problems of philosophy, in a sense, are not solvable, except they're solvable through an understanding of its own reflective necessity. It just sees itself over and over again and senses itself and feels itself, and it's willing to accept this as truth because it feels amazing, because it's love. And nothing else will do. And it's not, weirdly, just white bliss, or not immediate. I mean, before you even hit white bliss, I guess, there's this understanding that can go on, understanding to see how everything relates, and therefore creates the picture, the whole picture of her. How free should we be? When you get it, you realize that your real freedom comes from obeying. Because otherwise, you're trying to put your freedom into boxes that limit what you can do and be, and what you can believe in. It's like Link saying, I want to choose all my freedom. I can choose every freedom I want in Kokiri Forest before the game starts. And then when the game's supposed to start and he's supposed to go off and save Zelda, he goes, no, I like my freedom in the box of the forest. No, the point is to break out of the box, realize that you just trust that thing that's outside you, and then go and save Zelda to win the Triforce. How free should we be? We shouldn't be. If we just obey, I promise you our wills will feel determined in freedom towards something exciting, a dream, a moment, an adventure, a release of joy, just by obeying and then participating. Obeying, then participating with the will as the system wants you to, because you're grounded in truth and you just release it. And the thing will unwind your consciousness and blow it up like a balloon. Boom, pop into love. That is what's going on, folks. And that's why Christianity is the truth, because Christ went to the bottom of the experience only to discover it was still love. How free should we be? We don't want to be free. We want to obey. Because if we just knew we could trust who we were obeying, we would trust that they want what's best for us. And what's best for us, oh my God, it's pretty darn good. If what's outside us really wants to know what's best for us. See, but the thing is, God is not outside you externally that way. God is outside you, actually behind you, as the Logos moving you through time, moving you toward the object, but it's outside you in the other direction. It's behind you, moving you toward the correct object, the correct negation. That's what's happening. God, the Logos moves consciousness towards its correct negation. And the will participates with it in determining what that is. And it takes forever to go to negation. That's why life is eternal. Negation's always outside you. Never quite there to consciousness. Because if it were there, it would know nothing. And that there's nothing to know. Yet it is love. How free should we be? Totally free to obey. That's how.